Zombies, zombies, zombies. They are running amok. You have a mission to complete, and on top of all of this, you are sent into an infected area with only a handgun and a few herbs to heal your wounds. How would you fare in the zombie apocalypse, and what would it look like? We are going to cover all these questions in today's Life's Biggest Question. So grab some first aid spray and watch out for that dude with the bag on his head with the chainsaw, because we are going to answer the question of what if Resident Evil was real.
Hasta luego.
As is tradition over here at Life's Biggest Questions, let's start off this video with a quick summary of what Resident Evil actually is. Resident Evil is one of the most popular video game franchises in history. It has stretched over 25 games and has been transported into 6 live-action movies. There's a ton of juice and history in this series, so I'm going to give you a general breakdown of what happens in these games. It starts with the Stairway to the Sun. It's a hidden area in East Africa that is supposed to hold a certain type of flower that potentially holds the key to unlocking immortality and bringing forth a new dawn of man. Scientist Oswald E. Spencer and a couple other eggheads get their hands on the flower and start trying to crack the code to see how this flower works. This leads them to heading up into the mountains where they live in a big mansion and try to find out how to make people live forever. But something about science is that it's very expensive, so they need to find a way to create funding to fuel their projects. They decide the best course of action would be to develop a pharmaceutical company that makes bioweapons for the military. Not the most ethical approach, but I bet they started to see the dollars roll in. Now this is how Umbrella was born. Oswald E. Spencer and his colleagues decided the best course of action would be to split into 3 different groups to focus on separate projects. The first breakthrough that was born via Umbrella would be the T-virus. This is the standard zombie virus that we see throughout most of the games. When the host is infected, their mind starts to decay and they become violent, dangerous, and contagious. Now the T-virus also has some potential to make the host extremely powerful, but the problem is that the brain always gets turned into mush. Then another discovery was made. It's the NE-alpha parasite. This parasite attaches itself to the brainstem of the host and acts as a second brain. This allowed the creation of the Tyrant, which is actually a massive super soldier that is also a zombie. There are several iterations of the Tyrant project like Nemesis and Mr. X. These living weapons can take commands and are nearly impossible to kill. They can take a lot of damage. Outside of the advancements of the T-virus, there's another virus called the G-virus that has regenerative capabilities. And there's also a prototype virus that ends up in Albert Wesker that gives him some insane superpowers and makes him dress like someone from the Matrix.
Your feeble attempts only delay the inevitable.
Now all this super secret research of course leads to the virus leaking out. I mean, we wouldn't have a game or movies if everything went smoothly. We needed a little conflict so the players can feel like heroes. There's an outbreak of zombies up at a secluded mansion where the Umbrella research was happening. This leads the Special Tactics and Rescue Service team, otherwise known as the STARS, to go in and investigate. Think of the STARS team as a special ops team. They go in and investigate the mansion, learn about Umbrella's dirty deeds, and some of them are able to make it out with their lives. So just a little outbreak up in a secluded area, no big deal. Well, there's also a huge outbreak in Raccoon City. These zombies start running around all over the place and eating up everyone. So the STARS members are sent in again, but this time Umbrella decides they want to make sure that all the STARS members die, and they send in one of their aforementioned super weapons, Nemesis. This leads to more zombie shooting and finding out that the parasite within Nemesis can evolve and become even more powerful. But then the STARS eventually kill him. Then there's the whole cult in Spain that worships the parasite and is somewhat controlled by it, and then there's also a similar thing going on in Africa. Now I'm glossing over this because we have a lot to do, and I'm going to be honest with you, there are 25 games worth of story here, and I just don't have the time to cover it all. So I'm going to focus on the aspects of the lore that we have covered, because we're going to now shift gears and actually dive into the question of what if Resident Evil was real. So if Resident Evil was real, that would mean that there is a major corporation that has more power than God. Maybe they would be super smart with this power and not let it fall into the wrong hands. But this is Resident Evil, baby. The power starts in the wrong hands. So I'm going to skip past the fact of what this would mean for warfare, because I covered that in the Life's Biggest Questions of what if Nemesis was real. So let's look at this from the perspective of the people. Well, this would totally suck for all of us. Most likely there would be a massive cover-up of all the small outbreaks, so the information would be hard to come by. But once the public found out that the zombie virus was real, widespread terror would sweep over the world. Imagine watching on the news a bunch of people swarming each other and eating each other. This would lead to riots, revolution, and people spending whatever they could to try and get their hands on cures, which would almost likely be fake. There would be false cures all over the internet and droves of people buying them because they would be afraid of the zombie virus. governments would start to be torn apart by their people. So this would lead to martial law being implemented to try and control everyone. We would see full-scale civil war, which might lead to the virus spreading even further because living conditions would become so poor everywhere. Then as the virus continued to spread, we would most likely see it mutate and create even more powerful zombies. Now people would start dying off in droves. This would force a real version of the Umbrella Corporation to make some sort of a cure, and let's say it works, stops the spread of the virus, and then the world is saved, hooray. Or the other option is that it doesn't work and this means the end of the earth as we know it. So happy. Well guys, that has been life's biggest questions for today of what if Resident Evil was real. Let me know what you think about what would happen if Resident Evil is real in the comments below. I've been Shader and keep asking the big questions.